Hi, I'm Laura Borland, host of Gladverse TV. I am so excited to be sharing a second season of this show. Last season was about bouncing back. This season is about giving back. And I have 13 of the most extraordinary women telling compelling stories of why they give. Welcome to Gladverse TV, where the silver lining is always our North Star. In this new season, we're focusing on giving back. We want to know what inspires individuals to make massive shifts in the lives of children. Krissy Webb is a co-founder and executive director of Student ACEs, a not-for-profit organization dedicated to inspiring and developing young men and women of character, honor, and integrity. Krissy has been in leadership positions in the nonprofit sector for over 12 years, where she has dedicated her career to inspiring a new generation of leaders. Through Student ACEs, she has positively impacted over 50,000 high school student athletes and has taught them leadership skills, values, and character education to be successful men and women in the classroom, the athletic fields, and in their communities. She's a certified instructor of mental health first aid. Krissy lives in Palm Beach Gardens, close to me, with her husband and twin daughters. Krissy, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Look, I'm so excited because as we were discussing backstage, I am a big advocate for anything with kids. You know, as a former teacher, this just resonates with me so much. So tell me, how did Student ACEs get started? What's the inspiration behind that?
So Student ACEs was started, actually with my daughters being born. And my dad and I were having a conversation about who were going to be the role models for the next generation, and in particular my daughters. We were driving in a U-Haul truck and started having that conversation. He had been working for Florida Power and Light for about 30 plus years, 32 years or so. And I said, Dad, what's next in life? What does that look like? My dad coached my sister and I's, all of our sports teams. I said, what are they doing in the schools to prepare these students, that high school age, to be the leaders for my girls? So we started throwing some ideas back and forth, and then what emerged was Student ACEs. So that character development component. So if you can give them those core values that we teach as an organization, then, because the schools have been, we all know this, and as a former teacher, they are overwhelmed. There's so much to do. You used to be able to get into a lot of this character development component. So what we found was that they were really hungry for this piece of it. So we started Student ACEs, 2013.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you were doing this with your dad?
My dad and I started, so we're co-founders.
Oh my gosh, that was fantastic. I had a business with my father. He passed away last year, but that was it was an interesting experience because I love my dad dearly, but there were moments where, when he wanted control or he wanted something done, I get I'm dad, you're the daughter, listen, right? But ultimately, it was a great bonding experience for us. So I'm glad that, you're having that quality time with your dad in this new phase of his life. So really good stuff. So tell me, 50,000 students have passed through your program. When did you get to that number, and how was it often for Student ACEs? How did you get, people, schools wanting to be a part of this?
So the 50,000 comes from different programs, right? So our organization, there wasn't a model that we found. We research informed, yes, but it was very organic. So when we started the core program, which was having students from different schools, different backgrounds, different ethnicities in one classroom, that we went through the character values of the organization. I'm sure we'll get into that. Then we said, okay, we were listening to these kids and they were saying, well, I'm the captain of my team, and in this situation, what do I do? So then we started captain summits that had 150, 200 kids. So what started with bringing these, 32 students together in one classroom was the pilot program to 64 to 150 to about 200. That was the max of the monthly classes. Then from there, from listening to those kids, other programs started to emerge. So that was the captain summits that allows us to go into 3 counties. So to be able to bring captains from different sports teams together in one setting to talk about the roles and responsibilities of captains. That was about 250 student athletes. Then individual school workshops, my students need to have a better attitude on the team. So how do we do that? So then we started working with individual schools to then we have a center in Belglade. That's our only physical location. So we're an after school program out there. So we serve students every single day out there, to working with all the students at St. Thomas University, all the athletes there. And so working with FHSA, which is the Florida High School Athletic Association, for their annual conference. So it's just started to organically say, this is a need that's not being met, and how do we fill that with, how can we contribute as much as possible to this subject matter? And so that's where 50,000 over 10 years.
I love the idea of listening to the feedback and then curating experiences based on what your audience is telling you. That's a powerful way to get adoption, and putting students in subgroups so that they can network with other students from other schools, which is really powerful. I wanted to ask you a couple of other things too, with regards to athletes, or the term athletes, right? We do have physical athletes who play physical sports, but then there are also the mental athletes, the people who are parts of, chess club, debate. Are they also included in that, in your program?
We focus primarily on sports teams, individual and team sports. The only location that we don't just serve the athletes who play on sports teams is in Belglade. It's open to any student who wants to come to the center and is going to participate in the programs. So we had done, and this is a learning opportunity, was where we learned, and, as an organization, focused what we were good at. There's a very high performing school up in Palm Beach County. It's called Suncoast High School. And we were invited to work with their student government association at their SGA. And it was a different type of student that was in that, so our strength was really motivating and inspiring the student athletes of the school to create positive behavior change amongst the student body. So we honed in on that, and
no, I appreciate you saying that, because again, listening to feedback, you pivoted. So that also speaks to your active listening skills. You've been basically saying to audiences, we tried it with this one. These students they're already kind of leaders in their own right? So what are you really cultivating in that space? And I definitely see where the value would be in terms of developing leadership skills in athletes, so that what is impressive to me about athletes, and you're the expert in this space, but what I've observed in the years that I used to teach high school was that they had the balance figured out, right? They knew, I need to maintain my grades or I don't get to play. And so they found ways to make sure that, their schoolwork was up to par, and plus because they wanted to practice, they wanted to participate. So the one thing that to me was missing was that the deference to, let's say, the captain or, the leader for whatever sport there was, but then the sub players didn't feel like they had a lot of say. Have you found that to be true?
You said soccer players?
No, the sub players. So the captain and the representative.
Yes. What we've noticed, Laura, is that the captains were named captain, and sometimes they weren't told what that responsibility is and how to bring along those other teammates. So you're named captain, and then what? That's a lot of responsibility, especially with some of these young students. If you're a sophomore, you're supposed to command the respect, of your teammates, and they may not respect you just because you're a sophomore. So what are the roles and responsibility of captain, and how does that show up on your team? And then how does that transition into, so ACE is athletics, community, education. How does that feed into your community? How does that feed into your school? How does that, as a captain of a sports team, how do you bring that along into other areas of your life? So that's what we
powerful. That is really, really powerful. I like that. Because to your point, they think they're captain and it just means that you're more popular than everyone else in the school, as opposed to elevating and bringing others with you, right, up to that level, so that should something happen, the team still is able to govern itself. Really, really powerful. So tell me one really impactful or memorable moment. Like, what stands out to you since you've started delivering in the student ACES space?
Oh gosh.
Transformation you might have seen?
It's hard to pinpoint one specific, because there's so many. When you're working with, this as a teacher, when you're working with young people, it's so hard. And even with research, right? That's always the thing. Like, how do you know it works? How do you know it works? They will all want to evaluate, when you get that call a couple of years later saying, hey, that one thing you told me, thank you for saying that, this is how it showed up years down the road. Because that's when you never know when that hits for a kid, right? You don't do it for that instant gratification. You do it because you know that you're changing the lives of these kids, and those kids are changing the lives of other kids, right? Whether they be good moms or dads or community leaders or whatever, however they contribute, that they took those tools and then that they're proud to impact other lives. And that happens all the time.
I can definitely imagine that. Especially for children who are really on the margins, right? They're already walking in kind of like a little unsteady, uncertain about, the confidence that they have. They know they play sports well, but they don't feel as if though they will matter in life.
Sure.
And so it is so powerful, the program that you have, to let them know that, yes, you're a leader right now. You're demonstrating that you are competent enough to handle all of this responsibility, these varying responsibilities, and you're making a difference. So I love that, Krissy. So tell me, where do you see student ACES growing in the next 3 to 4 years?
Well, it was really funny because we were just having this conversation, and so our goal as an organization is to always develop and these programs that can be, you want other communities to say, okay, how does that show up in my community, and what resources do we have, and what have we learned, right? So as much information that we have that we can give to others, and how we've learned and what we've learned, that's how that looks. So if it's a community in a different state that is, wants to reach out about an after school program and different programs that we offer there, we would love to have that template that we can share with other organizations. And that's how, we've gotten a lot, better at what we do too, from other people, right? You want to be surrounded by people that are smarter than you, better than you, that are doing it better than you, so that you can learn as much as you can from those people. And then the kids grow up, right? So then we take it to other communities, right? So we have athletes, and students playing all over the country, and being students or working. So they bring this to that community. So then you have this network of individuals, and that's the goal, is to continue growing that. I will say also, Laura, that, one of the things that we really hammer down is sports is what you do, it's not who you are. So that's the whole purpose of these kids have to identify, oh, I'm a National Honor Society student. Oh, I'm a soccer player. Oh, I'm a softball player. Well, they've never been taught to think in that mindset of, who am I as a person and how am I contributing? That doesn't mean that because I kick a score a goal, that's how I'm contributing. What drives me. So that whole mind shift, or that shift of sports is what you do, it's not who you are. That's if we can change that, across everywhere, then you depression, all of these different things of, I'm never good enough because I'm not, one of these sports stars.
It's interesting that you should say that, because we really have only started to scratch the surface on this whole idea of intersectionality, right? So we're not just, you know, a kid playing football. You're also a big brother. You're also, you know, an active family member. You might be active at your place of worship. So, you know, at church, you are part of the youth group. You might be part of a key club. So many different aspects, right? You play an instrument. All of those things like make up the totality of the person. And we've often, you know, until recently, we were boxed in terms of just thinking, you know, okay, I'm an attorney, or I'm a talk show host, or, you know, I'm a founder of something, but there's just so much more. Mm-hmm. And each of those experiences informs the person that you're seeing in front of you, right? And so it's to really unpack all of that and to find out, you know, who you are at the core and to honor that.
Right.
So listen, I could speak to you all day, Krissy, especially since you're my neighbor and I'm so excited. So we definitely have to connect when you're down at this end.
I know.
But this has been a delight. Anyone who works with kids, like, I don't know, you just were like a cape for me. Hero stuff. Like, I love it. So
they change our lives. They do. They change our lives. But they don't realize that. Yeah.
I have been fundamentally, I tell people all the time, leaving teaching was the hardest decision I've ever had to make. Bar none. I still have the scar tissue from that, and that's been easily 15 years. So I know it. They just kind of get under your, you know, your heartstrings, and they just live there.
You never stop teaching, though. You can come teach a workshop on media with
Jamie.
Oh,
for sure. I'd be glad to. All right, Krissy, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Information is there. Student Aces, go check it out. And if, you know, there are any administrators watching, let's try to get this in schools, in more schools.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.